Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. If you're new to my channel, please be sure to subscribe now for future content. And if you're returning, please leave a like on this video as it helps perform at a much higher rate. Tonight's video features gruesome and macabre crimes committed in cemeteries. I want everyone to sit back, relax, enjoy this new theme, and stay sinful. Two cannibal brothers robbed more than 100 graves. Pakistani brothers Muhammad Arif and Farman Ali were arrested for a second time in 2014 for their unique hobby of stealing and eating human corpses. After neighbors complained of a horrible stench coming from their residence, police found the severed head of a boy, as well as other body parts stewing in a pot. Arif and Ali were originally arrested in 2011 for snatching bodies and body parts from more than 100 graves to satiate themselves. Since Pakistan has no laws against cannibalism, the brothers only served 2 years for dehumanizing a body. As far as serial killers go, Ed Gein has to be one of the absolute creepiest. Keane didn't kill many people, but he was known to steal bodies from the graveyard. Why? He was building a suit of human flesh, as well as decorating everything in his house with bones and skin. Keane started robbing graves before he was eventually arrested for the murder of a local woman. Upon searching his house on an isolated farm, police found human flesh to be the centerpiece of Gein's interior decorating, in addition to the furniture and fixtures made out of body parts. He was fashioning a suit made of female skin that he could wear around while pretending to be his dead mother. Sounds a little bit like the movie Psycho, if you ask me. Norman Bates, anyone? In a case almost as bizarre as pet cemeteries themselves, Brandon Nodier pled guilty to the murder of heiress Dorothy Thompson in 2014 after the case went cold for 30 years. Nodier started working as a live-in caretaker for Thompson's New Orleans pet cemetery in 1980. Known around town as a con artist, Nodier convinced Thompson, a heavy drug user, to give him a 99-year lease on the property for a mere $20 a month. In 1984, Thompson came to her senses and accused Nodier of tricking her and filed a civil suit against him. Before the case could be resolved, her body was found chained up with a plastic bag over her head in the Mississippi River. The case went cold only until a witness came forward. He told police he spoke to Nodier, who confessed the crime to him. When he realized the police were on his trail, Nodier panicked and began to threaten another key witness, who also worked at the cemetery and had witnessed him strangling Thompson. Nodier was able to plead guilty of manslaughter in 2014 and received only 10 years in prison. 2 months after Charlie Chaplin's death in 1977, his body was stolen from a Swiss cemetery. The culprit soon contacted Chaplin's widow, Ona Chaplin, seeking $600,000 for the return of the legend's body. Ona refused to pay the ransom because she believed her husband would have thought the demand was outrageous. Police started investigating the case, and 5 months later, 2 auto mechanics were arrested for the theft. They temporarily buried Chaplin's body in a cornfield while trying to collect the money. He was exhumed and returned to a safeguarded concrete tomb. The unsolved case made headlines for 18 years. Jessica Lynn Keane, a pretty high school cheerleader, was found dead in Foster Chapel Cemetery in West Jefferson, Ohio. Keane had been staying at a safe house for troubled teens and runaways after arguing with her mother. One night she was kidnapped, raped, and murdered, but the police were unable to find her killer. That is until convict Marvin Lee Smith gave a DNA sample from jail for an unrelated charge that connected him to the murders. Authorities later learned that in 1991, Smith snatched Keane from a bus stop. She managed to get away from him into a nearby cemetery, but ended up running into a fence post. Smith caught up with her and bludgeoned her with a 70-pound headstone that he pulled out of the ground. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in 2009. Back in the 19th century, body snatching was a common crime among medical students. Doctors were expected to have extensive knowledge of the human body for surgery, yet there were very few specimens. Partly because donating your body to science wasn't quite a thing yet, which left medical students in a bit of a predicament. One such snatched body belonged to politician John Scott Harrison, son of President William Henry Harrison and father to future President Benjamin Harrison. On the day of his funeral in 1878, mourners noticed the nearby grave of a man named Augustus Devon had been emptied. One of Harrison's sons, a friend of Devon's, went searching for the body at Cincinnati medical schools. Instead, he found his father's naked body hanging by a rope in a chute. Devon's body was later found in a vat of brine at the University of Michigan. What do you do when you're the nighttime caretaker of a dark, expansive cemetery? You deal drugs, of course. Omar Cruz was a caretaker of Woodland Cemetery in Stamford, Connecticut, when police started getting suspicious of him. After getting a tip he was dealing drugs, police started tailing him. When they couldn't find any drugs at his apartment, they figured the only place he had unrestricted access to was a graveyard. Using their drug-sniffing dog Titan, who found 10.6 grams of cocaine hidden inside a commercial-sized lawnmower on the cemetery grounds. In June of 2015, 14-year-old Jordan Watson became the target of 3 vicious bullies. Watson was dating a girl, also 14, when 19-year-old George Thompson became jealous. Despite the two being friends, Thompson lured Watson to a cemetery in Carlisle, England, and stabbed him to death. According to authorities, Thompson told Watson he wanted his help in a money-making scheme, but he's really after Watson's girlfriend. Thompson enlisted the help of 2 other men who owed him, and the gang murdered the unsuspecting Watson. Thompson will serve a minimum of 27 years, while the 2 accomplices will serve a minimum of 14 years and 10 years respectively. Rather than heading to Crate and Barrel like a normal person, this lady in West Virginia decided to decorate her backyard with stolen grave markers. Penny Snodgrass stole a set of family headstones out of the Brownland Cemetery to line her burn pit and decorate her driveway. Police could see the headstones just from driving by her backyard and charged her with grand larceny. To add insult to injury, the gravestones belonged to decorated veterans from the community. Back in 1982, famous punk band the Misfits were arrested, along with 14 fans for trespassing in a New Orleans cemetery. Apparently, the Misfits hoped to check out the famous above-ground New Orleans graves, particularly that of voodoo queen Mary Laveau. A couple of local teens they befriended agreed to take them out one night, but word spread and it soon was a group of 30 kids drinking and hollering in the cemetery. Someone reported them and the famous band members were arrested, full makeup and all, for trespassing. I was originally hired because the cemetery had a period of time where they experienced people sneaking in to perform rituals. I was 21 years old doing this as a side job, with nothing to protect myself. I was given a barcode scanner and was told to drive through the entire cemetery every hour or so to patrol and to scan each of the pre-posted barcodes to prove I was actually doing it. Now this cemetery was massive, pretty much broken into 3 parts: the newer part, the historic part, and the famous part where celebrities are buried. I did this routine once and never did it again, going so far as to break the barcode scanner so I didn't have to. While I was driving, it was pitch black. Coming around a long curved road, my headlights picked up what I could have sworn were a pair of legs walking across the path, but only up to the knees. Shoes, pants, knees, then absolutely nothing. I stopped on the road and just watched this pair of legs cross 10 feet in front of me. I put the car in reverse, did what felt like the longest K-turn of my life, and noped it straight back to the parking lot. Thank you guys for watching and listening to the very end. If you want your story featured on an upcoming video, please be sure to email the email in the description box below. And until we meet again, stay sinful.